Alright, this section is titled Great Icebreaker Questions, which, why is it the third section? Anyway, what is your favorite item you've bought this year? Okay, what do I have that I've bought? I didn't buy my computer this year, I bought it last year. What did I buy this year? It's an item, so digital assets probably don't count. Honestly, it's probably one of my magic cards. I was of the opinion, a while ago, that I probably should not play Magic the Gathering, on account of I don't want to pay tons and tons of money for literal pieces of cardboard. And then I crossed the threshold of spending about 75 cents of my own money on just a couple single individual cards that I thought were going to improve the deck that I was getting for my birthday. And lo and behold, I then purchased a draft booster box for Strixhaven, and then 2 collector boosters for Strixhaven. And now I'm going to end up with a bundle box for the Forgotten Realms. Help. You know what sucks most about getting into Magic the Gathering now? I'm getting all these physical cards. And I don't play the game with physical cards. If the club that I'm in was still meeting in person, at least I would have an excuse. What would be the most surprising scientific discovery imaginable? Okay, well, you've come to the right person, because imaginable is a very specific adjective. Let's see, what would be the most surprising scientific discovery imaginable? Imaginable, right. Most surprising scientific discovery. Well, it would probably be something that we wouldn't be able to predict, or it would be something that makes everything else less surprising. In order to be the most surprising thing, all that has to happen is that everything else becomes not surprising at all. Thus, extrasensory prediction. Extrasensory prediction would by definition have to be the most surprising scientific discovery, because as things currently stand, the scientific community has decided, yeah, that's not a thing. And thus, for it to be scientifically discovered would be surprising. And once it was scientifically discovered, no further discoveries would be surprising anymore. So that's the answer to question 51. Nailed it. Question 54. What would the title of your autobiography be? I don't find autobiographies to be rewarding to write, because I'm far more interested in what I can come up with than what has happened to me. And that's why I write fiction. Oh, I can buy a bank. Oh, I can buy 2 banks. We've ascended to the least moral method of cookie production so far. We are now lending cookies to people and charging them interest, which means we're outsourcing the baking to the general population. And we don't have to do anything anymore. But we're still going to, because more cookies. Say you're independently wealthy and don't have to work. What would you do with your time? Basically, I would continue doing what I'm currently doing and just not look for a job anymore. If you had to delete all but 3 apps from your smartphone, which ones would you keep? I would keep Discord, because it's a good communication method. I would keep YouTube, because I enjoy being on the youtube.com and watching Among Us. And I would probably keep... Oh, I guess my music player is an app. That sucks. Here's the thing, right? I use YouTube on my phone all the time. I use my music player more than I even realized, because I forgot that it was literally an app. I can do all of my Discord on the computer if I need to. So I don't want to delete Fire Emblem Heroes. I don't play it as often as I did in the past, but if I delete it from my phone, I lose all the progress that I've made. And I don't want to lose all the progress I made on Fire Emblem Heroes. So yeah, apparently I would keep Fire Emblem Heroes, my music app, and then YouTube. I don't think you're allowed to delete the default messages app, so people would still be able to text me. What is your favorite magical or mythological animal? Tressim. What does your favorite shirt look like? Okay, so my favorite shirt is a dark blue t-shirt with a white dot pattern, but it's not a printed pattern. It's just tiny embroidered single stitches of an off-white fabric in the dark blue t-shirt. So it produces this fun little texture, and it just looks like a starry sky. And that's my favorite shirt, and I like it. It's very fun. Who is your favorite Disney hero or heroine? This list appears to have been written in 2021. So it's entirely valid for me to include all the various things that Disney owns now, because boy howdy does Disney own a lot of things. My favorite Disney hero, not because it belongs to Disney, but just because it's my favorite hero, is gonna be Spider-Man. Always has been, frankly. I like Spider-Man. 60. What would your dream house be like? Well, I would definitely want space to walk around, because if I'm not at my computer, I'm probably pacing. I don't really want to sit still. And so, as long as I have enough, as long as A, I have basic amenities, and B, okay, well actually, A, sub-bullet point, I'm including what I need to run my YouTube channel as basic amenities, because at this point, an internet connection is a pretty basic amenity. So, point A, basic amenities, point B, space in which I can roam. That's about all I need, personally. I don't want a swimming pool. I don't want a personal bowling alley. I'm kind of fine. 62. You're going to sail around the world. Bad call. Somebody talked me out of this. What's the name of your boat? Well, I'm going to call my boat the Atlantis, because, frankly, when people who are on the water tempt fate, it tends to do the opposite of what they expect. Thus, I'm going to name it after something that sank, just to give myself a little bit of luck in actually succeeding in this whole sail around the world thing, because I definitely don't expect to. This question is rigged against me. I can't swim, by the way. Question 64. What is your favorite television network? So, I haven't really watched any television networks in a long time. So, I'm just gonna have to default to the thing that I watched a lot of when I was young, and that is Disney XD. That is the name of the channel. That is not me saying an emoticon out loud. I would never do such a thing, smiley face. Best icebreaker questions for meetings? This is not a meeting, for the record. I'm not in a meeting, but I'm gonna read the questions anyway. Number 65, what sport would you compete in if you were in the Olympics? I think there's Olympic chess, right? I got 4th place in a chess tournament. No, I didn't. I got 2nd place in a chess tournament. I was in 4th grade. I just mix up numbers, I guess. Whoops. I would absolutely lose, instantly, at Olympic chess. I was only as good at it as I was against other 4th graders. But I'm even worse at actual sports, and thus, I have to pick the thing that's at least based on a skill that isn't going to tear one of my limbs out. So yeah, Olympic chess. That did exist, right? I got 2nd place in a chess tournament, which makes me the 4th best chess player I knew in 4th grade. Because I'm pretty sure the 1st and 2nd best chess players at that school straight up didn't enter the tournament. They had something better to do. Okay, that question needs to be further defined by the person running the meeting, and no one's running this meeting. I'm running this meeting. Okay, this is an icebreaker question for you guys in the comments section. Who is the better businessman and why? Their example gives 2 musicians. Instead, I am going to give, here are your choices, okay? Here are your choices for who's the better businessman. Option 1 is Jeffrey Bezos, former Amazon.com CEO. And option 2 is Jake Paul. Question 67. What was the worst job you ever had? So, technically, I've had one job so far, and thus, it becomes by default the worst job I've ever had, even though I liked being a computer lab assistant, mostly because I barely had to do anything. I got to read literally the entirety of Worm during work, which, if you've read Worm, you realize how much free time I've just admitted to having on this job. I still did everything I was supposed to, for the record. I wasn't slacking off. that's just all that they just didn't require all that much from me. It was a work study job, so designed for people who can't afford to go to college, which is everyone these days. Question 68. You can have anyone fictional as your imaginary friend. Who do you choose and why? Isn't that already the case? I don't think you have to stipulate that you can have anyone fictional as your imaginary friend. That's just true. A better question would be, what fictional character would you choose as an actual friend? Because if you phrase the question that way, it has stakes, you know? I don't respect this question, I'm skipping it. What would your superpower be and why? That depends on what framework the superpower is being generated in. If I just get to pick, I'd probably go for invisibleness, because it's an evasion-based power with less counters than super speed and less drawbacks than super speed. Super speed by itself is probably just going to end with you dislocating every joint in your body, which means that for the most part, when people pick super speed, they're picking a suite of powers that manifest into going really fast. But it's just a headache to think about that, so I'm picking invisibility, because you can't get hit with an attack if the attacker is just not aware that you're a valid target. Furthermore, you're not gonna hurt yourself by turning invisible. At worst, you won't be able to see, because invisibility is making light stop interacting with you, and thus it's not interacting with your eyes either. So blinding yourself is the only drawback that invisibility would logically produce, and that just puts you on an even playing field with everyone else, as they're trying to deal with the fact that they can't see you. Yeah. It's also something that doesn't carry as many expectations. You're not gonna assemble the League of Global Defense and say, all right, who do we want on this team? Who do we want to call on when there's a world-ending catastrophe on its way? Well, this guy can just turn transparent. Yeah, we're maybe gonna pick a different candidate, which means I don't actually have to fight most supervillains, which is just a pragmatic benefit for picking a slightly less impressive superpower. Number 71. As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up? I don't actually remember the answer to this question. Isn't that weird? What's your favorite tradition or holiday? My favorite holiday is Christmas. Yeah. What fictional world or place would you like to visit? Can I choose the Fountain of Youth? That's fictional. What is your favorite breakfast food? Scrambled eggs. Yeah. What is your favorite time of the day and why? Evening, because it's getting dark, it's getting late, and yet it's not socially unacceptable to be awake, like it is at 4:30 in the morning, when I tend to sometimes not necessarily be asleep. When did I... Whoa, I have 10 million cookies. Okay, Right, coffee or tea? This question was already on the list, but I'm probably going to pick tea, just because, I mean, there's more variety available, so if I was forced to drink one of these two things, I would eventually probably find a tolerable tea, whereas coffee just kind of is coffee. Teleportation or flying? Okay, so there's a lot of caveats to this question. Here's the thing, right? I would need a very strict definition of how the teleportation works in order to agree to it. Because on paper, the thing that saves more time is the better option, and that would lean me toward picking teleportation. But I would need, at minimum, 100% confidence in the fact that this method of teleportation will absolutely 100% leave me perfectly fine, intact, and continuous as a being, and not be some kind of a weird conceptual, create a copy at the destination and then remove the original. Like, no, don't do that. Like, if I couldn't say with absolute certainty that there was not a single negative health benefit to using the teleportation, then I would pick flying. Because I don't trust myself not to teleport, and I don't want it to be a risky thing to do. What book, movie... Oh, goodness gracious, this is a terribly formatted question. Look at this. Okay. I'm going to copy this question onto Notepad. Alright, this is question 79 in the only list of icebreaker questions you'll ever need, okay? They were so confident in this list of icebreaker questions that they just don't want you to look at any other options. What book, movie, read, seen recently you would recommend, and why? Excuse me? That's not just not an icebreaker question. That's not just not a question. It's not even an incomplete sentence. It's just an invalid grammatical construct. Question 81. If you had a time machine, would you go back in time or into the future? Probably the future. Well, first of all, is this a round trip? Because if it's not a round trip, I would probably just kind of opt to ignore the time machine. So, on the assumption that I end up back where I started, if you go into the past and you change anything, you might not end up back where you started. If you go into the future, and you grab stuff from the future, and bring it to where you started, which is the present, the only people whose timeline you can change are the future that you visited, which you don't necessarily care about. If you go into the past and you change the past, you might change the present, and then when you come back to the present, you might end up in a worse position than you originally had, and you don't want that. If you go into the future, and you take some stuff, and you bring it back to the present, and you credit yourself as the person who introduced this amazing technology to the world, you get rich, you change the present, you change the future, the people in the future who did invent all that stuff no longer exist to come take revenge on you. It's a win-win. Alternatively, the ability to time travel is a synonym for the ability to visit parallel dimensions, in which case, oh boy. Do you think you could live without your smartphone, parentheses, or other technology item, end parentheses, for 24 hours? Yes. I'm not going to choose to, for no reason. Like, I'm not just going to arbitrarily decide to do that. But yes, it is not difficult to literally survive without some random arbitrary modern convenience. What is your favorite dessert? That would be ice cream in its variety of formats. However, I do also really like chocolate lava cake. 84, what was your favorite game to play as a child? Well, according to COPPA, which is the law that applies to whether or not a YouTube video is made for children, the definition of children is below 13. Well, below 14. 13 or below. Yeah. Thus, I have no idea. I don't remember that far back. Question 85. Are you a traveler, spelled with one L, or a homebody? I do not like going places, except for when I do. In which case, it's kind of fun. Unless it isn't. What's one career you wish you could have? This. Internet person that makes stuff and... yeah. What fictional world or place would you like to visit? Okay, this literally verbatim was earlier in the list. Hang on. It's not even in a different section of the list. Question 73, under Best Icebreaker Questions for Meetings. What fictional world or place would you like to visit? Under the same section. Best Icebreaker Meetings... Best Icebreaker Questions for Meetings. Question. What fictional world or place would you like to visit? It's number 87 as well. It's literally the same question. Okay. Question 88. What's your favorite place of all the places you've traveled spelled with two L's? So they're also not being consistent about how many L's are in modified forms of the word travel. This list of questions is, I mean, surprisingly entertaining for a list of icebreaker questions, but not in a good way. And 192, the last thing on this list of icebreaker questions. What is your favorite ice cream flavor and ice cream topping? As much as I would like to fit the theme of the video and say cookies and cream, it's mint chocolate chip with no topping, or with just more chocolate in the form of chocolate syrup. it's reliable. It's nice, you know? It's not what I always get, but it's the standby. And that's the end of the list of questions. That's extremely anticlimactic. There were a lot of repeats at the end, and there were also just a ton of questions for the entire duration of the list that were poorly formatted, badly worded, or just not very interesting. But you know what? Whatever, at this point. I'm not going to look for a better list of icebreaker questions, because it probably doesn't exist, frankly. They claim to be the only list of icebreaker questions you'd ever need. Who am I to argue with that? I mean, I don't expect to need another list of icebreaker questions ever, so I guess they're right. Oh, I can make a temple. Cool.